The Supreme Court of Nigeria says the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Olukayode Ariwoola, had no telephone conversation with President Bola Tinubu on the ongoing presidential election petition court proceedings. According to the Apex Court, Justice Ariwoola neither spoke with Tinubu nor the Director General of the Department of State Services, DSS, with a view to pressurizing it to do the bidding of the powers that be. In a statement, the Apex Court dismissed the claim making the rounds in the social media that the CJN had a telephone conversation with the president as false and unfounded. The court says the rule of law and supremacy of the Nigerian constitution will always be upheld and applied in every matter at the courts as Nigerian courts treat cases on their merit. Rufai.
So a lot to talk about. The story was making the round as regards a telephone call. I'm happy that the Supreme Court has come out to debunk all of this. And I've come out to say that, and Justice Ariwoola has come out through a spokesperson, Dr. Konde, had come out to say that this did not happen. But the question is, let's dial back. Why are we having all of this rancor and all of this? Because we have an election petition in court. An election that a lot of Nigerians felt was going to be their chance to be able to express their feelings about the country. An election that had a lot of questions to it. And elections that were nebulous. But it is for the court to decide. But the integrity of the court too is going to be tested as a result of this decision. I don't subscribe to unfounded stories. And since he's come out to debunk it, let us let it rest. But the court should also know that the world is watching. And the court must do what is right according to the laws of the land. Because we are going into the final phases. Final depositions across all the political parties have been made. Justice Ariwoola said he's not going to take sides with anybody. But our justices and the courts must be truly independent. And also, we should sound a note of warning. This frolicking our justices do with politicians, we must be careful. And why a lot of Nigerians are raising concerns, just imagine what Senator Bukachua said the other day of how they arrange judgments for members in the Senate. And he said that thing to brag. After he said it, he knew the temerity of what he said. He went to court to be able to get sort of like a stay off order that don't try me, that I said it on the house, in the Senate House. So I should have some level of independence when I said it. But that does not make it right. And if we are a sane country, we should revisit the Bukachua case. So we should be careful, and the judiciary should be careful because a lot of Nigerians are watching. And that's why anything the judiciary, Nigerians are touching. The judgment they're about to give should be based strictly on the rule of law. Also, a couple of months ago, there was a picture making the rounds of this same Justice Ariwoola frolicking with politicians. In fact, I remember the opposition PDP wrote about it. Our justice must not be seen doing that. We must strictly abide by the rule of law. Justice Ariwoola has debunked this. We take his word. But the judiciary must show itself without blemish. Must be above board like Caesar's wife. Because Nigerians are watching and their judgments have a far-reaching implication on our country. We'll be watching. I rest my case.
Right.
Okay. This is about the role of the judex within the polity. This is not the first time that the CJN, Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ariwoola, will be accused of having contact with the opposition and all of that. The other time, it was alleged that he met with President Tinubu in London, secret meeting. Now it is being alleged that a secret phone conversation. All of this are allegations. Now, on both occasions, the Supreme Court has had to deny the allegations. But what I find curious here is the fact that in the face of election petitions and all of that, Nigerians are speculating about what the apex court is likely to do, because everyone has concluded the matter will go to the apex court, and that the CJN is in a personal position to determine what the eventual outcome will be. The Chief Justice of the Federation of Nigeria is the chairman of the National Judicial Council. He's also the Supreme, Justice of the Supreme Court, But what people are speculating is coming from social media. Every time, social media, all kinds of characters on social media speculating. No, the job of the court is not to respond to the mob. So I find the response in this particular instance by the director of press of the Supreme Court, Dr. Festus Akande, I find it a bit strange. It's not everything you respond to. The court must be seen, particularly the apex court, must be seen to stay above the fray, so as to give confidence to lower courts. So I thought the statement by Dr. Festus Akande is irrelevant. Because if he has to respond to everything that comes up on Twitter, then he will never stop issuing statements. Half of the people on Twitter are ignorant. I keep saying that. Who hide under anonymity to just talk nonsense. So, I don't know. However, let's go to the next point. The next point is that, yes, it's been alleged that the CJN is in a position to influence the presidential election tribunal. Well, that would be most unusual from what we learned in, adjectival law. For the Supreme Court, for the Chief Justice of Nigeria to dictate to the lower court. There have been many statements in that regard, most recently and before now, by Justice Taiwo, who I saw yesterday, saying that the job of the lower courts is to do justice. It's not to be hiding whether, my judgment will be approved by the appellate court. Just do your job and do justice. And in that regard, the CJN is not in a position to dictate to anybody. The job of the appellate court is to look at what the lower court has done and then arrive at its own conclusions. And impugning the third point, impugning the integrity of the justices, either at the lower courts or at the appellate courts, is not a good thing for our democratic process. Their lordships are expected to be above board. They are expected to do justice no matter whose ox is God. And despite the emotional, political, ideological differences that have taken over the space in Nigeria at this moment, I believe that we still have more than enough men. We still have men and women on the bench in Nigeria who are committed to their oath of office and who will do justice no matter whose ox is God. So nobody should come from this elementary, uninformed position that the CJN of Nigeria is like an overlord. It's not. In fact, when the matter goes to the Supreme Court, His Lordship, Justice Ariwola, may not even make himself a member of the panel. So he's not in a situation, in a position to dictate to his brother justices. So that's the situation as it is, but I understand where all of this is coming from. People are very emotional about the 2023 presidential election. They are predicting outcomes, they are speculating, but that should not extend to the attempt that we see to impugn the integrity of their lordships. And finally, The APC has also denied that there was no phone call between President Tinubu and the Chief Justice of the Federation, and that there was even no meeting between Tinubu and Justice Ariwola in London, as people tried previously. They tried that trick previously. They are trying another trick right now. All the people who call for the rule of law, should properly educate themselves about how the process works with regard to the judiciary. If you put down the judiciary, which armchair commentators say is the last hope of the common man, then of course you will have destroyed something that is more than the judiciary. You will have abbreviated the purpose of democracy in this community.
All eyes on the judiciary and the power of social media. In this case, we have seen what it can do for good, or perhaps in terms of spreading false information. The truth is that in the last election, social media played quite an active and powerful role. We saw campaigns on there, we saw information disseminated. In fact, some key politicians took to social media to make some announcements or to carry their followers along in terms of their next moves and to hopefully garner some favor and votes from that platform. It has become so powerful that it has become a news source for a number of Nigerians. According to statistics, there are 32.9 million Nigerians active users on social media. And when it comes to information and news, Twitter has been seen to be quite a powerful source. Now, the debate could then be how credible is the source or not. A certain Jackson Ude had tweeted, raising concern about the fact that the Chief Justice of Nigeria had made a telephone call to the president. As has already been established, this isn't the first time this kind of speculations have come to the fore. The first time in March when this happened, where he was said to have had a physical meeting with the president-elect at the time, he was said to have been rubbished, and it was proven that he actually sat in a meeting with other justices, and there were people who could attest to that fact. And now a few months later, following the fact that in a few weeks, or perhaps in a matter of days and weeks, we will have the judgment from the Presidential Election Petition Court. And so there are a number of news stories flying around on social media, false and true. In fact, everyone seems to have become a journalist of some sort or a media personnel speaking, whether it is to drive propaganda or to spread the truth. And that's why we have to be careful in terms of what we receive from the online platforms. And also why it's also important perhaps for Mr. Akonde to give a rejoinder. It's quite sad, unfortunate, that it has had to come to this. Because number one, it speaks to the perception of the lack of trust of Nigerians in the judiciary, such that when news like this, unsubstantiated, comes out, it spreads like wildfire and people begin to panic. We have established it a number of times. Nigerians are quite, perhaps, eager to find out the outcome of the Presidential Election Petition Courts because there are a number of stakes and a number of interests and emotions invested. However, it is also important to filter the news, and for Nigerians, especially those who have a huge following, to be careful about the news that is spread, because if it's not founded, if it's not substantiated, and it is misleading, it can mislead people to actions that are not desirable. These are the implications. And then again, brings rise to that debate around, should social media content be censored? Should there be some form of regulation in terms of news that is going out? Because whether we like it or not, a number of Nigerians get their information from social media, and once they read anything online, they don't bother to verify. Hence where we, in terms of mainstream broadcast stations and mainstream media, have a huge role to play. It's been established already. The matter has been said, it's unfounded, it's not true. We look to the judiciary to be fair, equitable, and to be just in their decisions. Move on to the next story now. Save for unforeseen circumstances or last-minute change or permutations, the leadership of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, guided by President Bola Tinubu, may settle for former governor of Kano State, Abdullahi Ganduje, as its substantive national chairman. Although the preferred candidate for the office of National Secretary was not clear yet, a former governor of Osun State, Gboyega Oyetola, was said to have been penciled in for the position. Though Oyetola was believed not to be particularly keen because of his ambition to return to office as governor of Osun State. The announcement of the resignation of the former national chairman of the party, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, and National Secretary, Senator Iola Omishore of the governing All Progressives Congress continues to cause ripples. While this dust is yet to settle, our senior correspondent, India Mogo, has been speaking with a cross-section of party leaders and members.
Since the acting APC national chairman, Senator Abubakar Kyari, announced the resignation of Abdullahi Adamu and Iola Omishore, many chieftains and members of the party have been speaking on the resignation. The accusations against the door range from the alleged high-handedness of Adamu while handling party matters to non-accountability of party funds, including the non-adherence to the party's constitution. APC chieftain and former Minister of Telecommunications, Adebayo Shitu, speaks on the issue and the best way out for the party.
It is better to leave the stage when the ovation is loudest. So for me, I see this as nothing extraordinary, because they did not wait, for instance, for perhaps a vote of no confidence to have been passed against them. They looked at the atmosphere and found out that it was better for them. So for me, I still want to congratulate them for making their own contributions to the growth and development of the party, particularly in the last almost 2 years.
But the controversy of the leadership of the party not presenting a formal letter of resignation from Adamu and Omishore to the public still remains.
Did anybody ask whether there was need for him to exhibit a letter or not? He said he had resigned, and they have not come out to say they have not resigned. So we have to take Abubak's word for what it is.
On the question of Adamu working at cross purposes with the president, whom it is alleged never supported Tinubu, Longes Anyanwu, a party chieftain, says,
if the president feels that this time we must pursue the manifesto of the party as he represents with vigor, and I need a team that will work with me in the proper interpretation of the spirit and letters of the party. That subsists. And not after the emergence of the leadership of the National Assembly, a man who is supposed ordinarily, even if there was a mistake, supposed to come and defend it. You not say you are not part of it. You are dancing naked in the marketplace.
Except for Odigwe Oyegu, no past chairman of the party has finished his term. Looks like the party can get a grip on its internal democracy.
The bigger every political party becomes, the more complicated its handling becomes as well. And the party has become a huge behemoth, and it requires a 21st century manager to be in charge.
And as party members await a new direction for the APC, there are reports that some former governors may be nominated through a consensus to take charge of the party after a rescheduled NEC meeting, an emergency national convention. Ndi Amugo, Arise News.
Well, if I still update on the resignation of the chairman of the APC and the national secretary.
A lot of politicking going on. One thing is certain, like I said before, President Tinubu will definitely consolidate his base in the party. So what is he trying to do? He's trying to get loyalists in. A report says that they've talked to Mr. Ganduje about that. Report also said that they had actually tipped Mr. Ganduje to be minister, one of the ministerial nomination list. It's a report anyway by a source that said that, but now they're talking to Mr. Ganduje about the possibility of being there because they still want it to be from the northern region. But President Tinubu wants an ally in there. Also, as National Secretary, he wants another ally. A lot of people are tipping Oyetola, the former governor of Osun State. But it is said that Mr. Oyetola has also pushed forward Senator Bashir of Osun State also, which is a Muslim Yoruba person. I think they're trying to have sort of like it should be a balance or something. So they're also tipping that person. But it is still very open. All of the negotiations are going on. There are indications that Mr. Ganduje might emerge as chairman. Let's see how that pans out. If that finally happens, then we'll have seen a clear departure from the days of an Adamu, where there was a lot of friction between the president and the chairman of the APC. So he will definitely put his people in there and be able to consolidate the party. So this is another kudos to him, a master stroke at least, because it would be a bad thing if the president cannot dominate his party. And he's fought a couple of wars in the recent time. The first war he fought was the Yari War. In fact, there were indications that that almost tipped things over for him. And because it would have been sad for the political party if Yari had won against, the preferred candidate of the president, because it would show that the president doesn't have control over his party. And President Tinubu had to go out, as it was said by Mr. Anle Ndume, that he went out that night and he stomped and in fact talked to people, met with people that night just to be able to get it. But despite that fact, the votes were still very close, but just 17 difference. So that shows you that Yari did a very good job. He got into the base, he cracked the party. Afterwards, we saw what happened. So if that's the case, and Yari kept on talking about betrayal, there's also a possibility that Yari might probably regroup after this, his first attempt. That's the first war. The second war President Tinubu has fought is this Adamu's war, as regards getting the principal officers. When Adamu came out to say that, I know nothing about them. But decision had been made hitherto, and negotiation had been made as regards who will be principal officers with the members of the APC in the House, and they had talked to their other colleagues from other parties. But the chairman of the party says no. So this final one is what he's been able to achieve if he finally gets his way with Ganduje. So they'll probably regroup. He'll be able to hold his party together because he needs a united front in his party. He needs to be able to dominate his party, then to move on, because what happens internally in terms of internal politics will also affect him as regards other things he'll set out to do. And there will also be other breakbacks coming up when he finally picks his nominees for ministers and they're out. Some people will feel disgruntled. I'm sure probably he will have to look for a way to quell those, agitations within the party. Some people that feel disgruntled that they were not picked. And then so that he can consolidate and stabilize and start to do the work that is needed for Nigerian people.
Okay, this week in my back page column in this day newspaper, I wrote about Ayu, Adamu, and party politics, the political party system in Nigeria. And I want to return to some of the points I made there. Now, what we're discussing at this moment is about Governor Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje, former governor of Kano State, as it is, likely to emerge as the next chairman of the APC. The proposition is that he will be named as interim chairman, and that eventually, when the National Executive Council of the meeting convenes, he will then be ratified as a substantive chairman. Now, the big issue in our political party system is the relationship between the party system and the executive. Take APC as an example. The APC has had serious problems with the chairmanship of its party since they emerged on the scene in 2014-2015. How many chairmen have they had? They had BC Akonde. After BC Akonde, they had John Odige Oyegun. After John Odige Oyegun, they had Adams Oshiomhole, right? After Adams Oshiomhole, there was Mai Mala Buni, who was a sitting governor, and also after him, Senator Abdullahi Adamu. And if you look at all these chairmen, each one of them left office under controversial circumstances, being accused of this, being accused of that. It's not as if the APC is the only party that has that issue. They have a similar problem in the PDP. They have a similar problem in the Labour Party. They have a similar problem. So the major challenge is about how our political parties function. Many of these people who emerge as executives in these political parties, these are people just looking for positions. I don't believe all that story that Ganduje is being persuaded to become chairman of the party. He will jump at anything to remain relevant. Okay? That's the experience that we have seen in this environment. And that was why I raised a question on Tuesday in the newspaper, not on television, that, look, if you look at the United States, if you look at the UK, the party chairmen don't behave the way our own chairmen here behave. Because there's a different political party structure in the same democracies that you want to emulate. Political parties are supposed to be agents for the consolidation of democracy, to serve as a bridge between state and society and the people. But here, people just see it as an opportunity for personal relevance, and that's why they always run into trouble. This is the bigger issue. The second issue is that we are witnessing a situation, a pattern, a trend that we have seen in Nigerian politics, where whoever becomes president dictates who the leadership or principal officers in the National Assembly must be, who the principal officers of the party must be, who everything must be. They have stretched Section 5 of the 1999 Constitution even beyond the intentions of the framers of the law. Every time what you hear this time now is that, it's President Tinubu who has dictated that these are the people who should be principal officers in the National Assembly. Now again, they are saying President Tinubu has returned from his trip to Nairobi, Kenya, and he says, this is the man I want as chairman of the party. That's dictatorship. That's dictatorship. We must call it out. So we don't want to keep hearing President Tinubu has dictated. The Baba Sokpe tradition that they have in Lagos, they should not take it to Nigeria. Because in Lagos, the main thing was Baba Sokpe, the big man has said this. So they have taken Baba Sokpe to Nigeria. And all of us as Nigerians should say, no, we must insist on democracy, on a democratic process. Don't come and be telling us every day, this is what President Tinubu wants. We are all stakeholders in this democracy, and party members must also be stakeholders. But they don't function as stakeholders because they don't pay dues anyway. People who join political parties these days, they don't bring money to the table. So they kowtow, they genuflect to the people who make the money available. That's now how political parties are run in other parts of the world. As for Ganduje himself, well, it looks like a fait accompli from the reports that I have seen. And it looks like he will, of course, naturally jump at the position. And they will proclaim him. And he will do the bidding of the president. He hasn't shown great enthusiasm as a supporter of the president during the campaigns. But he must know that the position of the party chairman comes with a lot of responsibilities. It is not a place where he can go and be stuffing his babariga with dollars, as he was accused of having done so, and that matter has run into troubled waters in Kano State. In fact, if he emerges as a chairman of the party, as speculated, maybe he should not wear babariga, because once people see him with babariga in an important position, they will be looking around for nylon bags of dollars. But the bigger question is that the members of the APC, they need to do house cleaning. Even when they tell us there is no division, there is no this thing. They represent the ruling party, and they have bigger obligations beyond the ruling party to all of us as Nigerians.
And very quickly, I'll just say a few things with regards to a continuation of the conversation we had when the announcements, or perhaps we talked about the resignation of the chairman of the APC, and that is this battle between the CPC wing and the ACN wing of the APC. Now, with the emergence of Dr. Ganduje as potentially the new chairman of the APC, what this would mean is that more and more the ACN wing of the party is being strengthened, and the CPC wing of the party is being perhaps weakened. And what would that portend for the APC? Even though a number of APC chieftains have come out to say that, oh, everything is well, the house is in order, there's no internal conflict, we can see that this could potentially be a recipe to deepen the conflict within the APC, and the president being the leader of the party currently, would have his work cut out in terms of uniting the party so that they can speak with one voice. These are some of the issues. But yesterday, the Progressive Governors Forum met, following which the chair, Senator Hope Uzodinma, didn't give whether speculate yes or no whether to substantiate the story. But the fact that Dr. Ganduje was there in that meeting seems to give credence to the fact that he could potentially be the next APC chairman, acting before he is ratified at the next NEC. Finally, in today's news stories, the House of Representatives has rejected a motion seeking to suspend the recent increase in the pump price of petrol. Earlier, lawmakers voted against the motion after Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu questioned the legality of the move. The House then resolved to investigate the reasons for the hike in petrol prices. All right, Rufai, the House of Representatives are wading into, this has been obviously front burner in terms of conversation. Your price
This is
hike.
market, it's quite comical and laughable. And the House is, this is market forces now. So the House just has oversight. So you want to move him in a motion to suspend petrol price after they all celebrated subsidy removal and we said we're going to yield to market forces? And they have even collected their own palliative of 70 billion. And the palliative that was shared to the people now has been put up for review. So are they joking? I think the House humors us a lot. No, this is not the time to wade into there and start the shenanigans or the calisthenics they normally do in the House. This is the time for real solutions. I think the motion they should push forward should be for a forensic audit of the NNPC so we even understand what is going on out there. What dogged the period where we paid subsidies or we had crude oil swaps? What dogs all of that period? I think they should call for a forensic audit. That's the best thing to do, not asking what happened to the pricing. Because we all know what happened to the pricing. It's opaque, it's nebulous, it's not clear. Clearly on TV yesterday, we asked somebody from IPMAN, how do you arrive on your final price? They can't say it. And I also challenge the NNPC chief to be able to tell us how they arrive at their final price. They can't give us the templates. Because something is going on somewhere that they don't want the world to know. So what they should do, and those are the things I was saying before now, that President Tinubu should review the activities of the NNPC for some years before they even pull out the subsidies. Let even know what was going on as regards that. People are already bringing in oil. Take, for instance, Emadeb brought in 27 million liters for $70 million. Are they not going to sell and recoup their money? So you are moving a motion to suspend free markets.
I think the big question is about the quality of leadership that Nigerians are provided with. Oftentimes, the House of Representatives behaves like the Students' Union wing of the National Assembly. Sometimes they behave like, people who are ill-prepared for the job. And I think that Honorable Benjamin Kalu, that's the name you mentioned, put his finger on it, asking about what is the legality of this proposal. And he must have had in his mind, I'm not a mind reader, but you know that the removal of this fuel subsidy is hinged on two basic laws. The Petroleum Industry Act, which had set a timeline for reform review in the oil and gas sector. And also the Appropriation Act, which also said, look, okay, we can only make provision in the light of the political decision taken by the Buhari administration up to this point, May 29. So if you are saying, no, there are issues, are you going to take a second look at the Appropriation Act? Are you going to take a second look at the Petroleum Industry Act? But I guess, as I said, the House of Reps is the Students' Union wing, I'm also the wannabe wing. There is the wannabe wing of the lawmaking process in Nigeria. If the House of Representatives wants to get involved in this matter, they should be, in terms of oversight, be asking questions about the lack of innovation and imagination on the part of the government in trying to just declare that, subsidy has gone. Okay. Now they are saying next meeting we meet today. The National Economic Council is supposed to meet today. The president and the VP, they are just now meeting with some governors. They are talking about, synergy, correspondence, where synergy is the word the president used, between the federal government and the subnationals. Okay, these are things you could have done ahead before taking a decisive decision. Palliatives, they are not even sure about palliatives. They are just beginning to say, okay, palliatives, we will now set up a committee and all of that. And the economy, we have set up a policy advisory committee led by Taiwo Oyedele. By the way, Taiwo Oyedele, I saw a story saying he has resigned from PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, so as to focus on this national assembly. I hope they don't disappoint him, because oftentimes when brilliant, gifted persons go to work for government, they are disappointed by people, who just have no idea, who are just there, to occupy position and bear titles. And many technocrats, gifted persons in Nigeria, are always disappointed when they say, oh, I want to serve my country. But as to this, the House will focus on more important issues, and all those lawmakers, all the people who are just making the first major move in their lives, they need to get proper advisors, intelligent people, who, if they are short in terms of IQ, can help prop them up. That's the point.
Well, the House of Representatives, and in Dr. Abati's new term, I don't know if I should even use the Student Union wing, but the House of Representatives must be seen to be doing work, or want to be seen to be at least representing the people that they are in the House to represent. And so when we see headlines like this, it is to provoke that sentiment that we are working, even though, as has already been established, they might not have jurisdiction, or that is not part of their remit to investigate. They can investigate, absolutely, but in terms of the fuel price hike, they must understand that, as has been said, it's determined by market forces. Therefore, giving almost a false hope to people that, oh, we're on top of this matter, it's almost like a child goes to their parent to complain, and you're like, okay, I'll deal with that, when you know that you really don't have that jurisdiction to deal with that matter. As has been said, there are other areas where the House of Representatives, if it wants to make an impact in the situation, excuse me, can act. So one of the things that has already been established is perhaps look into palliatives, this National Social Register, holding the executive to account, being able to check and processes and procedures. And then let's look at also a review of wages in terms of even across the state, subnational state House of Assemblies. It's very important that they're able to think more strategically and see how they can actually, within their remit, work for the Nigerian people. So yes, this headline looks really nice and really good in terms of the House of Representatives getting to work to protect the interests of Nigerians, but it's also important to set realistic targets. The best they can do is to say, oh, why has this happened? Invite a few marketers or the NNPC, and it ends there. Nothing much is being done. So we don't want rhetorics for this 10th Assembly. We want actual work, where we see their impact, where we see them work within their remit, and not just sound bites.